Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unity of Claremont Sunday lesson for October the 4th, 2020. We continue with our series on relationships, and within that series, we are on the fourth chapter of Dr. Gary Simmons' book, The Eye of the Storm. The title of this chapter is Making Friends with Conflict. Well, once again, the title of this chapter in Dr. Gary Simmons' book, The Eye of the Storm, seems to make no sense. Making friends with conflict. Isn't conflict the opposite of peace? In fact, the enemy of peace? Nevertheless, I predict that by the end of this lesson, you will both understand and embrace the concept that we can and should make friends with our conflicts. As I reread this chapter in the eye of the storm in preparation for this talk, an interesting experience that I had comes to mind. Back in the 90s, I did a self-help program called Insight. One of the group exercises we did as part of the Insight introductory workshop was called the cocktail party. We were instructed to write out a short paragraph with the kind of things we usually say when introducing ourselves to a stranger. I really don't remember what was in my paragraph, but I believe it went something like this. Hi, my name is Nancy McClintock. I'm currently a lawyer practicing criminal defense in West Palm Beach, Florida. I am single and have no children, but I have a boyfriend and a cat. I enjoy bicycling and going to the beach. For this exercise, all the chairs in the auditorium where the week-long training was held were moved to the walls, and the floor was marked off with tape in a giant square. All participants were instructed to stand and stay in the square, but we were free to walk around. We were to go to random persons from person to person, reading our little intro to one person after another and listening to their intros. No reactions, conversations, or comments of any kind were allowed. We were not to say or do anything other than just read our intro to as many persons as possible and listen to their intros until the facilitator called time. Okay, that sounded simple and easy enough. There were a good number of people who had completed the course and had volunteered to assist the facilitator throughout the training. All these folks stood around the outside of the square. At the time, I didn't question why we were being surrounded by Insight assistants, but it actually was a clue to the intensity of the experience of this particular exercise. The exercise went on, but the facilitator did not call time. After about half an hour of repeating our intros to each other, things began to happen. Some people began to cry, still reciting their intro through their tears. Then some people began to scream their intros. Eventually, the entire group became hysterical in one way or another. Within an hour, all of us, including myself, were crying or screaming or both. Finally, the facilitator called time. When everyone had recovered to some extent, we took our seats and the exercise was explained. It was only then that we were told that when other groups had done this particular exercise, there had been occasions when some people had alarming physical reactions requiring emergency medical treatment. This is why the volunteer assistants had been all hands on deck around the square. So here is what I learned from this exercise. We all create a public persona, the face we present to the world. Each person's introductory paragraph was naturally a reflection of his or her persona. Your persona is really part of being civilized. The persona helps us to be accepted in our community and to be in a position to participate and contribute as well as to be supported. It's also natural for us to identify with our persona. In other words, we come to think that we are our persona. But somewhere in the depths of our being, we all know that we are not our persona, that we are more than, or maybe less than, or even completely different from our public persona. This insight exercise somehow brought home a realization of this truth in a way that no amount of lecturing could accomplish. After the exercise and the explanation that followed, though, we all knew and understood not only that we are not our personas, but that we are sick of them and ready to let them go. Now we understood from personal experience that happiness depends on being your authentic self. So, what exactly is your authentic self? Without your persona, what is left exactly? Sadly, neither schools nor churches taught us how to value and express our true selves. In fact, some religions teach that your true self is evil, so evil that you are destined to be condemned to eternal suffering when you die because of the way that you were made. Defective from the factory, so to speak. If that is what you believe about your true self, no wonder you don't want to discover it. We have often heard the admonition, just be yourself. And here's another one that's similar. Other people's opinions of me are none of my business. We all know there is truth in these old sayings, but there is the nagging feeling that it's not the whole truth. Because on the one hand, our individual uniqueness is supposed to be celebrated and expressed, but on the other hand, we all want to be accepted, to fit in. Who wants to be thought of as abnormal or excluded for our differences? This is actually the source of much of our internal conflicts, many of our storms. Dr. Simmons makes the point that your authentic self is at your center in the eye of the storms of life. It is the place where there is no conflict, no need to fight or be defensive. Your authentic self is the Christ of your being. You are a child of God, made in His image. When Jesus said, "Be perfect, even as your heavenly Father is perfect," He was instructing us on the nature of our authentic selves. We're not merely highly evolved meat-eating plains apes. We are divine. We are spiritual beings. I once gave a talk on angels in which I stretched the envelope of popular spirituality by saying what I knew some would not want to hear. The angels are usually thought of as beings who live without conflict, totally in harmony with the divine mind and divine will. They are the beautiful beings who never rebelled. They reside in heaven, eternally enjoying the bliss of the beatific vision. Both in biblical times and in our culture today, stories about angels were and still are very popular. Today, Amazon.com has a lot of books about angels to sell you. A lot of books. I looked it up. Over 100,000 angel books and other products are available on Amazon.com. Okay, the theme of my heretical angel talk was that the real reason we love angel books and stories, to paraphrase the immortal words of Pogo, we have met the angels and they is us. The angel is the authentic self we subconsciously know ourselves to be, but have been taught to hide. When Abraham Lincoln encouraged Americans to listen to their better angels, he was calling upon his people to be true to their authentic selves, to take those actions which express our true selves, our divine selves, not the false selves, the personas we are only pretending to be. Angels are often depicted as messengers of God. In fact, the message of the angel is actually your authentic self slipping through your defenses into your consciousness to point you in the right direction. It might be in the form of a warning. This impulse is not right. It does not express who you really are. Or it might be inspiration. This is the road you should take to express your true self. Your persona, on the other hand, is a never-ending source of conflict. It has to attack or defend itself to preserve its existence, and this can consume all your time and energy. It becomes utterly exhausting. Your authentic self, your better angel, knows itself to be the child of and one with goodness itself. It has nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and no reason to attack. Once we understand that the storms of our lives only have the meaning we give them, then we can decide to give them a different meaning, to see them differently. Instead of viewing them through the eyes of our persona, we can view them through the eyes of our Christ being. We can expend our energy defending and attacking, or we can choose to see the storm as the projection of our own internal conflicts which need to be healed. For the patient in the doctor's office, the pain is the problem. This is probably why we go to the doctor in the first place, to make the pain go away. Some doctors will simply write a prescription for the pain. Remember the old joke about take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning? Well, that exemplifies that kind of doctor. But a good doctor sees the pain as a symptom of a problem and seeks to diagnose it so that the cause of the pain can be healed. And then the pain will go away naturally. For the storms of your life, you have to be your own good doctor. Every storm is a symptom of internal conflict in need of healing. discover and resolve the inner conflict, and the external storm will dissolve into a sunny day. Instead of the knee-jerk reaction programmed by our upbringing, you can view every conflict as evidence of the failure to be authentic, the failure to express your true self. We can always choose action instead of reaction. We just have to know that we can. And that is called the power of faith. Once we know that we're not our personas, once we know that we are angels and not meeting plains apes, we can diagnose and cure instead of masking and enduring the pain. So, now we need to get the practical how-to of this DIY project. How do I discover my authentic self? And once I do, how do I diagnose and cure the root of the problem, the cause of the storm? Well, I call this the circle of doing and being. When we choose to be authentic, then we do what is authentic. As we act with authenticity, we become more authentic. Then, as a more authentic being, our actions become more authentic, and the process repeats. There is that famous admonition, fake it till you make it, which kind of expresses how this process works. Also comes to mind the famous WWJD, what would Jesus do? But I would amend that famous meme to what would my authentic self do? You see, we're seeking the same source of inspiration and power that Jesus utilized. We don't just want to copy Jesus, we want to become what he became so that we can do what he did. We want our doing to change our being so that we can be on a higher level. And another famous saying comes to mind. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Author unknown. So for every storm in your life, every perceived grievance, every frightening thought about the future, every unwanted change, I suggest you use the affirmative prayer we've been working with from Dr. Simmons' book. That is a choice. And making a choice is a doing. That doing will change your being. With every change of your being, you will tend to do things differently. With every action that is more in line with your true self, you will become more like the action you have chosen. And so, the circle becomes a spiral. This spiral is the path of the ascended masters. The more we use our faith power to see every challenge as a growth opportunity, the more our faith grows. And the stronger our faith, the better we manifest our true, authentic selves. Jesus often used the analogy of seeds which grow into trees or crops. It is not a matter of soul growth, because your soul is spirit, the same substance as your Father. But the growth process is about realizing and manifesting that spirit, your true self, which we in unity call the Christ of your being. As I promised, the title of this chapter, Making Friends with Conflict, now makes sense. You can choose to see every storm with the eyes of your Christ self, the I am at the center of your being, as an opportunity to heal and to grow. So, in conclusion, I invite you to close your eyes. Center yourself in the Christ of your being, your authentic self. Now call to mind one of your current storms, large or small. Now please mentally join me as I read Dr. Semon's affirmative prayer for calming any storm. I am now centered in the Christ of my being, knowing that I am whole, perfect, and complete. I accept, value, and embrace this situation as a growth opportunity. Using my faith power, I bless it and declare it to be for the good of all. I am guided and empowered to do the right thing in this situation. Amen. So be it. And so it is. Remember that you can help support Unity of Claremont by sending a check by snail mail to Unity of Claremont, Post Office Box 641, Mineola, Florida 34755. Or if you'd like to use a credit card, you can visit our website at unityofclaremont.com and click on the donate button. So until we meet again, this is Nancy Willingham blessing you with the very best of a great week.